Yeah, the Gulf states have really had a rough few years here as of late. And the other thing that we've sort of been noticing, there's been some research on this, is that hurricanes are getting wetter, if you will. Some of them are moving a little bit slower. We saw that in 2017 with Hurricane Harvey along the Texas coast. It rapidly intensified, made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane, weakened to a tropical storm, and then just meandered over the Houston area and dropped over 5 feet of rain in some locations. So, slower moving storms, heavy rainfall, and that's just not a threat at the coast either. Helene was unfortunately a banner storm to showcase that these are not just coastal events. All that heavy rainfall goes well inland. When that interact with the mountains, we've had some catastrophic damage and flooding that's still recovering up there. So it's not just for people at the coast. Hurricanes can extend well inland, and they seem to be dropping more heavier rainfall as the years pass by.
Well, Chris, as I mentioned, you're tracking how the Trump administration is reshaping the federal government. NOAA and FEMA are key organizations that help people both predict hurricanes, prepare for them, and deal with the damage in the aftermath. But they look different this season. So what changes have we seen? First at NOAA.
Yeah, the big changes are staffing. There's been a significant number of people who no longer work at NOAA or at FEMA. And the challenge is going to be trying to anticipate what that means as these storms come in. We really don't have a precedence for this level and speed of staff loss. So it's frankly hard to guess what the impact will be on anticipating, tracking, preparing for storms at NOAA, and for FEMA trying to get ready for the big ones that hit. But everyone I've talked to sends the same message, which is there's reason to be concerned.
And when we're talking about NOAA specifically, is it clear where most of those job losses have occurred? Are we talking about scientists? Are we talking about people who are doing administrative work? What do we know?
We don't have great data. There seems to be strong signals that a lot of the job losses are from the National Weather Service, from local meteorologists. It's an open question to what degree that will really impede their ability to, again, predict and track and send warnings of extreme weather. But, it's generally not good when you lose a lot of people really fast.
Matt, what can you tell us about the way data collection has changed in the past several months? What have you noticed?
Yeah, the most immediate impact with some of the cuts in the Weather Service and the staff shortages has been the decision to sort of suspend weather balloon launches. And so viewers are aware, twice a day, every 12 hours across the entire globe, meteorologists send weather balloons up so they can get a vertical depiction of the atmospheric profile. It's very important data. The only way to really know what the atmosphere looks like top to bottom, and all that gets ingested into computer models. So we've had a number of stations that have either reduced or all out eliminated weather balloon launches across the country. So there's less data going into some of these models. At this point, it's unknown if the impact of that. But if the trend were to continue and we lose more data, then we probably would start to see a little bit of a decrease in skill.
Well, that also makes me wonder for you, Matt, how you are thinking about what your work looks like moving forward as you try to predict and help prepare people for the weather that may come.
Yeah, we have a great partnership with the National Weather Service. I mean, they have Herculean tasks. They're very mission-driven. These are great people that worked through government shutdowns in the past and, have slept in their offices during big weather events. And so we're prepared with them to go through the season. The way the hurricane forecasting works, they have a national center out of Miami, the National Hurricane Center. Those are the ones that actually put out the forecast of where the storm is going to be and its intensity. Viewers may recognize the cone, where that's pointed to the country. But what might be a little bit more concerning is when the system actually makes landfall, it's a lot of these local forecast offices that begin to take over and get the specific details to their counties, their cities, and they're the ones that issue those severe thunderstorm warnings, those tornado warnings, and those are the offices that I've seen a lot of the cuts. So Milton last year produced a record-breaking amount of tornadoes across Florida when the day it was making landfall. All those tornado warnings were issued by the local forecast offices. So if you were to replay that event, the overall hurricane track might still be just as good as it was last year. But one has to wonder, if these offices are going to be shorter staffed, or at bare minimum, a little bit more, stretched out and stressed out. And be issued.
So, Chris, if forecasting and alert systems are strained or underfunded, or there are just fewer personnel, what are you hearing from states about the risks that poses for their communities?
Yeah, when I talk to state officials, the real concern, the huge concern is when a big one hits, if a big one hits, will FEMA be there? That's, the vast majority of storms states and counties can mostly handle on their own. It's that sort of extreme few, like Helene last year, that completely overwhelm state and local capacity. And that's where FEMA is needed, not just down the road, but like right away, right? The first example that I hear is, if there's a big hurricane coming towards the coast this season, will FEMA be able to pre-deploy, to send people and water and food and equipment in advance? It's just not obvious that FEMA's traditional approach, which is pretty hands-on when it needs to be, will be possible this year. So I'm hearing real concern from states, but also uncertainty. They can't get a clear message from FEMA about what level of support they can expect. And going into a seemingly bad hurricane season with that uncertainty is really hard for these states, most of which were already struggling to deal with these worsening storms over time.
We'll talk more about the cuts we've seen at FEMA, and we'll hear from a former head of the agency in a moment. But we got this email from Kit who says, can we trust the National Hurricane Center to give good information about approaching storms with the Trump regime apparently cutting funding for NOAA? Matt, I'd love your response to that question.
Yeah, absolutely. The Hurricane Center, these are the world-class scientists, and they're going to put out the best forecast that they can. And I honestly don't think that the cone itself, the actual hurricane forecasts, are going to be that degraded this year. That's my hope and expectation. And then, like I said, as we get down to the nitty-gritty details of a landfall, that might become a different story about how the Weather Service operates. But I can't say enough good things about the Weather Service and the Hurricane Center in particular.
That's Matt Sitkowski. He's science editor-in-chief at the Weather Channel. Matt, thanks so much for speaking with us.
Thank you.
Staying with us is...
Okay, guys, that's my podcast for the day. It's got done during the air, and that was a podcast on we are in the hurricane. So that was a podcast on hurricanes and about FEMA and the other agencies that are supposed to help for hurricanes, that are supposed to lend assistance, financial assistance, everything else. But myself being in Hurricane Harvey here, which is a horrible hurricane that hit us, did a whole lot of damage, and all that, and been in a few other hurricanes here. I'm gonna say this about FEMA. FEMA is garbage. FEMA is garbage. FEMA didn't do anything really to help the people here during Harvey. They didn't do anything for people in New Orleans during Katrina at all. Hundreds of people died. FEMA didn't come in. They didn't save anybody. They didn't give anybody any financial assistance at all, very little bit. What FEMA has done now is, for these disasters, FEMA has actually cut back on helping people. Here in Harvey, FEMA didn't do anything for people. People were getting denied. People who didn't even have a high income, whose apartments got flooded out and all that. FEMA denied them for assistance. And although these people were low income people, a lot of these people were tax-paying people. They were taxpayers, and FEMA did not help anybody get anything. So I understand why Trump wants to get rid of FEMA. FEMA is another one of those agencies that has been built for show, but don't do anything in the disasters. The floods that happened, all that rain that happened in I'm gonna say Tennessee and North Carolina and all that, FEMA didn't help the people to do anything. People are still struggling. You got folks who here in Houston who are struggling from Hurricane Harvey still, because FEMA didn't do anything. So, you know, FEMA is a horrible agency, a waste of taxpayers' money, and we are in hurricane season now. So the best thing to do is you better be self-prepared. You better be self-prepared for these disasters, because as you see, FEMA's not going to come save you. So you better be prepared. You better get ready for these disasters. I'm going to leave it at that. Y'all have a nice day.